Okay, what I decided to do is just put a complication of a bunch of videos that I've collected because people, you know, tell me I'm wrong or I'm hearing wrong or there's some misinterpretation. There are some things. Edit. Which one is not going? Okay. Anyway, whatever goes, goes. And if it doesn't go, why is it not wanting to work here? Edit. All right. I can't get this to play on True Social, so whatever. Whatever. Just I'm leaving it alone. So I'm already a minute in. And so I'm going to start with the first one. And I'm just going to play videos. I'm going to disappear from the screen and play videos. Okay, so just sit back and watch. Okay, and I'm going to play it.
Why there are no schools anymore in Gaza? Because we killed all the kids. That's their song. So I express my gratitude to everybody who condemns this expression of Jewish racism. Zionism is Nazism. Goyim of all the countries, unite. Thank you very much. Israeli football hooligans that invaded Amsterdam. Israeli football hooligans that invaded Amsterdam last week were heard singing why there are no schools anymore in Gaza, because we killed all the kids. That's their song. So I express my gratitude to everybody who condemns this expression of Jewish racism. Zionism is Nazism. Goyim of all the countries, unite. Thank you very much. Israeli football hooligans that invaded Amsterdam last week were heard singing why there are no schools anymore in Gaza, because we killed all the kids. That's their song. So
Okay, here comes the next one. This I just wanted to show you. This is posted by Donald Trump, and this is his view for the New World Order of America. So as you can see, let's take over all these countries. So, okay, so that's all I wanted to. You can watch this video, that I made. You can find it on my Rumble channel. I'll try and throw the link down below. If not, don't worry about it. And then this one here. Okay, I want to say this. Netanyahu is a psychopath, and I'm going to explain what I'm talking about and how I can save, if you listen to me, 6 million Jewish lives, besides all the Christians in the Middle East, because of this maniac and what he did. So now watch, learn, and listen. Listen, because it's very important to understand what these people are saying. And I don't like doing videos like this. Netanyahu claims credit for the fall of Assad. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu, whatever his name is, has taken credit for the fall of Bashar al-Assad's government in Syria from a speech delivered from the Golan Heights, where Israel forces have seized territory formerly occupied by the Syrian Arab Army. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action, Netanyahu declared. So Netanyahu supported ISIS to take over that land so that he made a deal with them. This maniac made a deal with them so the Golan Heights, so they could put Jewish settlements in there for the Greater Israel plan. You don't know what the Greater Israel plan is? I'm not going to put it up, but it includes Iran, Iraq, parts of Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. That's the Greater Israel plan. That's his plan. That's Netanyahu's plan. He thinks he's some kind of signed by God to create Israel. He's a psychopath and he's led by the devil. He's evil. He's an evil man, a very evil man, and he's going to get a lot of Jews killed. So now I'm going to tell you how he's doing this and how he follows Talmudic law. This is true. You can look it up. This is Jewish teaching in Talmud. What is considered murder? Okay, if you take somebody and you tie a millstone around their neck with a 200-pound weight and toss them in the water and they can't get out, you did not kill that person. They died on their own. If you tie them to a tree and leave them there for 2 weeks and don't feed them or nothing and they die, you did not murder them. That's Jewish teaching. So what Jewish people do is they get other people to do their things. Okay, I had a business in the city and a Jewish landlord, and he had a problem with another Jewish guy. He asked me to take care of the problem and call the town on him because he can't do it directly to the Jewish guy. I had to do it for him. You understand? That's how Jewish people work. That's their teaching. They hate Christians. So now Netanyahu is responsible for the death of every Christian that the Talmud and ISIS people kill in Syria. He is 100% responsible. And the only reason he did it was to get the Golan Heights as a start to put Jewish settlements in there. This guy's a maniac. He's the most dangerous man in the world today. He's worse than Joe Biden as being dangerous, because Joe Biden just doesn't know what he's doing. He's listening to other people. There's too much Jewish control in America. Listen, bringing in the third temple, building the third temple is not in Torah to bring your Messiah in. That's Talmud teaching. That's just some rabbi said it. That's all it is. Here, we don't eat the thigh of an animal, of the meat of the thigh, because Jacob wrestled with an angel and he hurt his thigh. So out of that, you get don't mix dairy and meat. Seriously? I'm sorry, don't eat the thigh. Oh, the dairy and meat. Don't, in the Bible, Torah, that's what I'm going to use Christian words. Torah says, don't boil a kid in its mother's milk, meaning a baby goat in its mother's goat's milk. Out of that, the rabbi interprets, and you all believe it, that you should not mix dairy with meat. Really? You can't do better than that? Seriously. And now this guy, see, he got ISIS to kill all the Christians and take over that land. He didn't do it. He got ISIS to do it. You understand? I'm so sick of this stuff. They're killing. This is not going to stop. I'm done with my yelling and screaming about it. Yeah, this one you're going to have to read the bottom because they're talking in Yiddish or Hebrew. I don't know what happened there. Wow. Wow. I don't know what happened there. That's crazy. It just jumped all over the place on its own. Okay, let's try and continue this. If it's working, I don't even know if it's working. Let me see. As well as, oh boy, what a massacre of things. I think this should be about right.
Last video, I'm looking for answers on this. So I'm going to share another video. This is called Zion, and it's 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to hit the play button.
Thank you. It's a bait. We have a big problem, and this is going to continue ongoing. This is an outrage to America. You talked about law. This is a travesty of the law. There is no law because the information and money are completely controlled by a small group of people. And if you say their name, you're called an anti-Semite.
I just don't understand how you have a country where your politicians have more allegiance to a foreign nation than they do their own. I honestly think that we have literal treason going on right now, where Israel's interests are being put before America's interests.
Is America a sovereign nation, or are we being controlled by Israel?
People are always talking about they are out of control, they are killing us. We have to identify who the real enemy is.
The satanic Jews. They control everything and mostly everybody.
What difference does it make if it's a baby or if it's an adult? It's the same thing.
There's one little nation state of Israel that everybody's afraid to talk about. It'll get you nuked off the internet. It'll scare advertisers away from doing business with you if you talk about Zionist infiltration.
Are you a Zionist? Yes.
You have to get rid of AIPAC. You have to get rid of the Israeli control over our country. I mean, there's just no, because they clearly don't give a shit about it.
Are you part of the Jewish conspiracy? What exactly is the?
Maybe. I'm Jewish.
Those are the words that he told us that he would never use again.
That film coming exclusively to the Stu Peters Network this fall. If you want early access to that film, just head on over to stupeters.com. If you click on the subscribe link that you'll see there at the top, you become the most important part of the information army that is rising up to defend our country and our children from the perversions and the pedophilia and the pornographic materials that are being shoved in their faces every day. You can subscribe monthly to the network for just $9, annually for just $90, less than 27 cents a day. But if you're a billionaire, you can get a little bit more here. If you click on the Give Once icon, you can put $1 million in there. It sure is a whole lot more effective than donating to so-called political candidates or PACs and political operatives. We are fighting a war for the soul of our nation and for the souls of our children. And getting the truth out on a broad scale is the most important thing that we can do. Having difficult and uncomfortable and controversial conversations, which I don't know why it should be controversial, if we're just telling the truth. And the truth is that for more than a century, but especially since 1948 and the founding of this modern-day secular nation-state called Israel, the Jewish supremacist ideology of Zionism has been a scourge on the planet, especially on Western, especially on Christian civilization. Fueled by this all-consuming desire for control and subjugation of others, Jewish Zionists and their useful Shabbos goys have amassed extraordinary amounts of power and influence over our institutions and over our corporations and over our banks and over the media and our government at large. They have managed to seize control of the flow of information and of the ideas that are taught to students at school. They force the rest of the world to embrace a Jewish religious ideology that says that Jews are the only people on earth with a right to self-determination, meaning they're the only people on earth who get to make decisions and govern themselves. And it's up to the rest of us to facilitate them in doing that on a piece of land that they claim belonged to their ancestors 2,000 years ago. But the inconvenient truth about all of that is that these people came out of Eastern Europe just 80 years ago. But you see, vast networks of Zionist enforcers keep all of this in line. Groups like AIPAC in the United States take ownership of politicians, bribing them and compromising them, making sure that they'll do everything in their power and more to promote Jewish Zionist interests, even to their detriment, even to the demise of their own people. And America is certainly not alone in all of this. Our friends in England have been dealing with Zionism for just as long, if not longer, than we have. It was the British who handed that Palestinian mandate over to a bunch of Jewish terrorists to pave the way for the birth of Israel and of the genocide of Palestinians with American support, of course. In England, Zionist merchants of civilizational destruction have influenced policy, just like here in America, and they have engineered this ongoing ethno-religious clash between native British Christians and Islamic migrants from the Middle East who've been displaced by Zionist wars. And of course, they're waging an all-out war against free speech. They actually have a pressure group called the British Israel Communications and Research Center, or BICOM for short, whose entire purpose is pushing Zionist pro-Israel propaganda in the press and into the information stream and then attacking anyone who doesn't go along with it. And it should be no surprise to anyone, of course, that BICOM is closely linked to members of Britain and Israel's governments. So, of course, people who stand up to any of this are targeted, just like here in America. And one of those people is David Miller. David Miller was a political sociology professor at the University of Bristol in the UK. He was fired for disagreeing with Zionism and for having the balls to actually practice free speech against Jewish wishes. But you see, that firing, it turned out to be a big mistake. Because David, unlike so many others, fought back. And then he won. He stood up to the Zionists and to their enforcers, and he received a landmark ruling protecting free speech. A BBC report on the subject from February of this year says, quote, an academic experienced discrimination when he was sacked from his university for comments that he made about Israel, a tribunal has ruled. Professor David Miller was found to have been wrongfully dismissed by the University of Bristol in October 2021. The tribunal heard how a complaint against Professor Miller, who was employed as a professor of political sociology, was first received in 2019 after a lecture at the university, where he said the Zionist movement was one of the pillars driving Islamophobia in the UK. The university subsequently received a complaint from the Community Security Trust charity, which said that his lecture was, quote, false, vile, and anti-Semitic. Further complaints were made to the university after he took part in the event called Building the Campaign for Free Speech in February of 2021, in which he spoke of being publicly criticized for his views on Palestine and Israel. This subsequently led to disciplinary proceedings, and he was dismissed from his role on 1 October 2021 after a hearing found he did meet the standards of behavior expected of university staff, end quote. But again, the university was found to have been in the wrong by acting as Zionist enforcers and pushing David out of his job for telling the truth. That was a win. A big win, a historic win. According to the law firm that represented him, David's case marked the, quote, first time ever that anti-Zionist beliefs are protected in the workplace, end quote. But of course, the Zionists were far from thrilled with this ruling. And in typical Zio fashion, the university's Union of Jewish Students released a public statement declaring themselves victims, calling for free speech to be muzzled. The Jewish students said that the ruling would, quote, set a dangerous precedent about what can be lawfully said on campus about Jewish students and the societies at the center of their social life. This will ultimately make Jewish students less safe, end quote. So what are they so afraid of exactly? The answer is they're afraid of losing their grip. They're afraid of losing control over the discourse and over the control of beliefs and over the control of geopolitical views of millions of people who they have managed to corral into a corner and tell what to do. David has said the Zionist strategy is to colonize British public life, much like they've done here in America. And the only way to combat that is to dismantle Zionism, both in Palestine and in the West. For more on this, we're now joined by David Miller himself. We appreciate you making the time to come on with us. What are they, in your opinion, so afraid of? Do you think it's that they're afraid of losing this power, this grip over all of Western civilization?
Yes, I think that the difficulty that the Zionists face is that they have been born into and grown up in a really strong climate of indoctrination, where they are told that Jews are chosen, that they have a right to, a birthright indeed, to the land of Palestine, and that nobody can make them remove themselves from there. And so what they're threatened by is the idea that actually what they have is an ideology which nobody in the world really agrees with, and that if that ideology is targeted, is discussed properly, is researched, and is dismantled, that they will have no place in the world to pursue the power of Zionism. That's what worries them. The students at my university were in an organisation called the Union of Jewish Students, which of course is a Zionist organisation signed up directly to the World Zionist Organisation. And they wanted me gone because I was insisting on saying that Zionism is an existing movement in the world which is fundamentally racist and genocidal and which must be dismantled. But they couldn't handle it. That made them feel unsafe. So that was what the problem was, and that's what we've seen ever since. So when I was dismissed, they all said it's just fantastic I've been dismissed, and then they threw their hands up in horror when the courts found that I had been wrongfully dismissed, and I'd been dismissed because I was an anti-Zionist. And indeed, the court found that anti-Zionist views were worthy of respect in a democratic society, i.e. not in the least bit racist.
Do you agree Zionism is a bigger threat? I mean, it's just as equally, if not more, of a threat from Christian Zionists as it is Jewish Zionists?
Look, there are more Christian Zionists in the world than there are Jewish Zionists. That's true. It's also true that Christian Zionism originated the doctrine, as Pappy's recent book has shown. But it's perfectly plain that the vast majority of those who are active in bullying, intimidation, infiltration of Western societies are Jewish Zionists. The power of the Christian Zionists, with the possible small exception of the US where they have more power, is really negligible. So this is a question of a movement which is predominantly Jewish. Yes, of course, there are some Christian Zionists, especially in the US, but they don't partake in. If you asked me to name the people at the top of AIPAC, I could tell you who the Jewish ones were, but I couldn't tell you who the Christian ones were because there really aren't any. So yes, of course, there's a distinction there, and that movement which they've built is a Jewish movement, of course, and it has some support from Christian Zionists. And of course, if you look at the background of the ideology and the ideas of Christian Zionism and Jewish Zionism, they're actually quite opposed to each other, as I'm sure you're aware. They both think that come the glorious day that one will vanquish the other. But no, the Zionist movement is mainly staffed and funded by Jewish Zionists.
I mean, I agree that there's this huge control structure, and it's an unpopular conversation and an unpopular fact, an inconvenient truth that we report on here daily, that when you look behind the curtain in the cabinet, in the administration, in the State Department, unelected bureaucrats, people at the top of the education system, these are all people who claim to be Jews. Alejandro Mayorkas, the people who control the banks, Janet Yellen, the people who decide when we go to war, how many people to drop bombs on, whether we're going to do it indiscriminately or not, seemingly what's happening as Israel is trying to annex all of this land and take it back to them because they say that it belongs to them. But I'm confused about the label of anti-Semitism that people on X and the Rolling Stone and the New York Times and the Daily Beast and Right Wing Watch accuse me of, because the people that we are questioning and the group that we are criticizing are not even Semitic. They're not Semites. The people who we are defending and giving a platform to, and the people who we're just pointing out, these women and children are not part of a terrorist organization called Hamas. They're not part of this boogeyman, Mossad, CIA, Israel-funded group of people that allegedly attacked them on the 7th of October. A lot of that attack, by the way, that was early on reported has been debunked, including the mass rapes. And those are the Semitic people. Those are Semites. So how has the public consciousness been able to be shifted to such an inverted position on this whole definition of anti-Semitism?
Well, I mean, the term anti-Semitism was dreamt up by a Jewish scholar, but it's more widely known that it was popularized by someone who was a sort of proto-Nazi in the late 19th century. Now, he had a belief that the Semites were a race which was inferior, and the Semites for him were those who spoke Hebrew, those who spoke Aramaic, those who spoke Arabic, the Semitic languages. So he was enunciating a belief that people from that region of the world, from West Asia, from the Middle East, were inferior to Aryans. Now, the Zionists quite liked the term anti-Semitism because it implied that Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews were from the Middle East, which of course, as we know from genetic studies done by Israeli social scientists, we know is false, that they mainly came Ashkenazi from Eastern Europe and the Caucasus. So the Zionists liked the term because it suggested that they were from the Middle East, and it helped them with a campaign to convince the British or the Americans, or indeed the fascists in Italy, that they should have Palestine as their alleged homeland. So of course that was part of the campaign, and of course that's today they still use the label, but they have of course tried to subtly change the label. I don't know if you noticed this, but when you see Zionists talk about anti-Semitism, they don't say anti-Semitism with capital S. They've taken away the hyphen, they've taken away the capital S, because they want to distance it from the idea that it has anything to do with the Semitic people, which of course includes Arabs, Palestinians, and the people of the Levant.
How do they get this control over all of these governments? I mean, specifically speaking here in the United States, how do they accomplish the goal of occupation?
Well, look, the history of this, and we don't really have great history books on this process, but the history of this is that we know that Jews are economically massively advantaged in the US, in the UK, across the whole of the West.
Yeah, less than 2% of the population represents 40% of the billionaires. And unfortunately, I only have 2 minutes left, so I know that's not a lot of time to explain this, but please go ahead.
That's right. Of course, that's true. It's 0.5% of the population in the UK. So yeah, this is a massive overrepresentation. And you add to that economic privilege. You have the Zionist movement comes along, it creates the state of Israel, it decides it's going to continue with the Zionist movement after 1948, and it tells its members that you must find a way to influence the countries in which you live, to raise funds for the Zionist movement, and to continue the Zionist project. That's the model. That's the instructions that they had to infiltrate political society and move it in a Zionist direction. That seems to me perfectly able to explain the kind of political control and penetration which we have today.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. And with the Zionist control, I guess, if you will, if we're going to use this terminology, I mean, the media is Zionist controlled, correct? You would agree with that?
Well, I think penetrated is a better word. Infiltrated and penetrated. So the policing in the UK are infiltrated by Zionist assumptions. The media are infiltrated by Zionist assumptions. They're not totally controlled by Jewish Zionists. Although in the US, that's more the case than it is in the UK.
Yeah. Fox News Channel, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all the major networks, all the cable broadcast networks, a lot of these so-called alternative media networks. Take the Daily Wire, for example. And so then they're able to prop up these candidates, and the only way that they get any spotlight in the media at all is if they subscribe to this Zionist ideology, and if they don't, the media will give them no airtime, almost as if they don't exist at all. And that's why you're deciding in our country, pretending here for a second that voting even counts, you're deciding which one are you going to vote for, the red Zionist or the blue Zionist. David Miller, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. I wish I had more time with David. We will have him back on. Very eloquent speaker, very well educated, and we're extremely satisfied with the victory that he was able to achieve. More on the Stu Peters Show continues next. I really mean that. I mean, talking to a guy like David Miller, it's like opening an encyclopedia. 19 minutes and 25 seconds just absolutely flies by in such a way that just completely...
All right, somebody took over my computer again, and they're moving the cursor all around. I should have left them. Yeah, they're in my computer. Let's see what happens.
Funding some of these fake political candidates. What are you going to do? Go give $1 million to a PAC that's going to usher in the next gubernatorial candidate to destroy your home state? We say it on this show all the time. And it's really not a secret to any of you or to anyone at all that this country is under a full-scale invasion, the likes of which no nation on earth has ever seen before. There are so many millions of illegals pouring over our southern border, so many millions of fake refugees and fake asylum seekers being brought in by our own government and planted in the middle of American communities. So much so that the term invasion has come into regular use. The average guy on the street knows that America's under an invasion, and it's not shocking to anyone to hear the word used. Because that's exactly what's happening. We're being invaded. And we have been for a very long time. And for many people, this invasion has been accepted as a part of just everyday life. It's supported by the government. It's supported by the banks. It's supported by big corporations and by the entertainment industry and by rappers and by actors and by NFL football players. And it's supported by fake religious institutions like the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, like Jewish-run Catholic charities. And these groups, these glorified human trafficking syndicates, because that's what they are, that hide behind religious values and virtues as they ferry invaders all over the United States of America, and as they sell vulnerable children off to perverts, these are the people who, along with the federal government, the murderous government, corporate, private crime syndicate drop thousands of Haitians off in places like Springfield, Ohio, so they can eat cats and dogs and give birth to children who will be registered as natural-born U.S. citizens and spend their entire lives draining the welfare system and selling their mail-in ballots to political operatives. These are the people who take thousands of communist Chinese sleeper soldiers who've been escorted from the Darien Gap to the southern border and then drop them off right in America's heartland. They target communities that they say are too white, too Christian, that they say don't have enough diversity. They take kids from all over the world, but especially destitute and unaccompanied kids from Latin America, and they work with cartels and human traffickers and some of the nastiest, most disgusting people on the planet to sex traffic them and labor traffic them. And they do it to adults as well. All of this is happening right in front of our faces, and the public is starting to find out some very disturbing details about just how widespread this really is. And that's thanks to a handful of courageous whistleblowers and journalists who are on a mission to bring the truth to the American people and bring these crimes against humanity to light. These journalists are asking questions. They're demanding answers. They're conducting their own investigations, oftentimes under an extreme risk of bodily harm or even death. One of these journalists is Hernando Arce. You've probably seen him around because Hernando is a citizen journalist who's been documenting firsthand the collapse of America's southern border, the trafficking of human cargo, of sex slaves and manual labor slaves all over the United States. And Hernando has done such a deep dive that he's come across so much information that's harmful to the open borders criminals driving this country into the ground that now his life is in danger. Hernando says that recently, as he reported from the ground near the southern border, NGO employees tried to blow up his car because he was investigating them and their employers. The non-governmental organizations, as they're called, groups like Catholic Charities and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, who are getting paid by the federal government to traffic illegal aliens. Hernando was flying too close to the sun. He was getting a little too close to the truth. So they tried to kill him. But you shouldn't be surprised by any of this, of course, because these people have demonstrated over and over again that they have absolutely no regard for human life. These people are selling children. They're pumping American communities full of cat and dog eaters and drug-dealing, child-raping, third-world savages, and they're getting paid by the government to do it. So of course they wouldn't bat an eye if they killed a journalist or anyone else who gets in their way, because they're criminals. But they're being exposed thanks to people like Hernando, who's working on an upcoming documentary called Treason that will show how the United States government has become the middleman in this multi-billion-dollar trafficking scheme that includes state and local officials, includes NGOs, includes multinational criminal gangs, turning Texas into the mecca of child trafficking. For more on this, we're now joined by Hernando Arce. You've been doing a fantastic job covering all of this.
I'm going to move on to the next thing. This is just a short clip of Kamala Harris.
Not everyone, I'm sorry. And more than half of this country does not believe what they're doing. They're letting them kill us, and no one's doing anything. I'm in total disbelief of all the things they're doing to us. Now we got the first case of bird flu in Michigan. I want you to listen to this video. Just, this guy is right. And that's whose video it is. You can see right on there. Listen to this video.
In clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population.
What?
More of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Did y'all hear that?
When
Yeah, your ears did not deceive you. She said exactly what we all thought she said. These Democrats and these elitists, I think that's their agenda. I mean, just look at everything around you. Think about it for a second. Marinate on that. Yeah, exactly. I don't even need to say much. No need to explain. Some people can say, oh, yeah, she messed up. No, I think it was a Freudian slip. She said exactly what they're doing. She just didn't mean to say it.
when we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink.
So there you go. She's talking about reducing population. And this is the last video I'm going to share with you. I hope you enjoy it.
Did an auto accident when I was 8 years old.
I'm going to skip by that.
Okay. I keep getting, hello everybody. I keep getting a lot of people who keep bashing my religious beliefs and questioning, what I believe. And so I figured I could ask the demons themselves, because they cannot deny Christ and his church. So I'm going to ask them, and it's a demon that you all talk to every single day. Them who created whose church. So first, I'm going to start with the King James version of the Bible, which is used by almost all the Protestant faiths in the world and are Christian as the true book. And King Henry VIII, we know, was a murderer and murdered, I don't know, I know he chopped the heads off of two of his wives, his advisor, all because he wanted the divorce. He was not God inspired to rewrite the Reformation, to rewrite the religion. He just wanted an heir to his throne, and he was willing to kill millions of Catholics. And the wars lasted over 500, 600 years, kind of still going on. And, even through the Irish and the IRA, that war is all the way back to King Henry VIII. And he's the cousin of King James. So basically, King Henry VIII created the Church of England out of thin air, and no revelation from God or angels. He didn't, at least even Muhammad said an angel spoke to him, at least something there. King Henry's like, I want a divorce, so I'm going to kill all the Catholics until they give me a divorce. I'm going to create my own church. This is history. You can look it up. Another queen came in and reinstated the Catholic faith, but then his cousin or second cousin, King James, which is about 50 years after Henry was in hell, King Henry VIII, recreated the Protestant faith, and I think 1611 decided to write another Bible because they were using the Catholic Bible and they had a different religion that didn't have Catholic traditions in it or follow the Catholic faith. So they needed a new book. So he hired some theologians, and of course they wrote what he said, because if they didn't, their head would have been hanging on London Bridge just like Thomas More's, or they would have got burnt at the stake like so many Catholics did in those days, and still to this day. So if you don't like what I have to say, don't listen. You don't need to. You can stay where you are, or you can try and hear the truth a little bit, because I'm not making anything up. The King James Bible wasn't published till 1638. And I don't know, the original English version of the Bible was written in 1389, and that was the Bible that the English were using in the Catholic Church until King Henry's cousin, King James, who has the pride to put his name on the book. So you're reading his book, you belong to him. The funniest thing of the whole thing is today, the leader of the Church of England is King Charles. And did his wife get murdered maybe too? I'm just curious, because there seems to be a thing about murdering to be a king in this King of Church of England kind of kingship. England has influence and controls the money system through the Rothschilds, through the whole world. And the whole world is following them and living in their beast system, which we've been stuck in for all these years. And we wonder why we have all this killing and everything. England, through the Church of England, through their king, has killed more people than any other dictator or anything in the world, and even got Christians divided God's kingdom in 50,000 different sects with the help of other people like Martin Luther. So let's ask your demon, whose church is whose? Hey Google, who started the Church of England?
King Henry VIII, according to history.com. However, the church is
King Henry VIII. He's the one who created your new church. So if you don't believe in any new revelation, how come you believe in a new church? You just condemned 2,000 years of Christians that followed the Catholic faith to hell. Even the ones Nero fed to the lions, they died in vain because they didn't read the King James Bible, because according to you, that's the only true Bible. It's actually the only false Bible, like really false Bible, and all the other false Bibles came from that. Now, I don't want to say the Catholic Church does not have error, because men make errors and men are sinners. So men, of course, are problematic. If you think your church has all saints in it and good people, and they're not liars and thieves and murderers in your church, you don't have them there, you're sadly mistaken. But King Henry started his church on the premise of murder and murdering his wife because you couldn't give him a male heir, and all 6 wives. And it wasn't the women, it was him. He had a problem, genetic problem, that he could not create a male. Okay, end of that. Let's go to the next one. Hey Google, who created the Lutheran Church?
Martin Luther, according to New York.
Martin Luther. That's another man. He wanted to marry his nun. Geez, he found some error in the Catholic Church. Yeah, there are meaning men that sin and are committing heresies and sins, which man does. But it's still Christ's church. So let's see what the demons have to say on Google about who started the Catholic Church. Hey Google, who started the Catholic Church?
Jesus Christ, according to Wikipedia.
Jesus Christ. There you go.
So the demons can't lie. And there you go. You got it. So I rest my case. If you want to follow your king into World War III with the money system, and if you think he's not involved, King Charles, you watch and see very soon he's going to expose himself. That is the most antichrist family, that royal family that ever lived in the history of humankind. So you think some other people were bad, Stalin and stuff? You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait and see. God bless, and may God have mercy on our souls. 2 billion dead in the next 2 years. Thank you, King Charles. And the King James Version Bible that everyone thinks is the Word of God. That's just an interpretation of the Word of God, the way he wanted it interpreted. That's why it's changed from the Catholic Bible. Get it? Or it doesn't make sense to you? I don't know. Look it up. It's history. God bless. May Jesus Christ have mercy on your souls. Maybe you can open your ears and hear the truth. Bye. Okay. I mean, I put that through there, and that's pretty quick. I mean, there's a couple of things I want to mention real quick. I'm a lay Carmelite. God led me to the Carmelite and the Catholic faith, actually. And I'm a third order lay. And the visions really started coming much stronger in around 20, well, they in the mid 2000s, like 2010, 11, 12, and kept escalating. So here now, I just want to mention, as you heard of maritime law, that's the law from England. That's in America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and to name just a couple of countries. And you know that the British are the ones who were in control of Persia in the 1914s. So money is the root of all evil. London, so you have 3 states there. You have the Vatican, London, and Washington, D.C. are separate, like, little countries. And in London, they control the money through the Rothschilds, money, through the King of England there in London. And so money is the root of all evil. Okay? We all know that. So the root is the foundation of it, is the money, is in London. The root of evil is in London. Okay? The root of Christianity is in Jesus Christ. So if you can't catch that little key and figure it out, so there it is. Right now they're consolidating the 3 into the 1, which is going to be in England. Okay, and there are some other reasons I can go into that for you, but I'm not going to do all of that right now. Okay, I'm going to share another screen. Okay, this is the Albert Pike screen. Okay, and so if for those of you who don't know who Albert Pike was, just real quickly, he predicted 3 world wars. He was a war criminal from the Civil War in America. He was a general on the Confederate side. His troops were scalping people and alive in cities, and he was arrested and put in jail. He also helped Albert Pike help Manzini in Italy start the Black Hand, which was the mafia, and also he was a Freemason, and so through Freemasonry to destroy the Catholic Church and upheaval and get corruption into the hierarchy. And do the murdering and whatnot for the Italians. He also is a co-founder of the KKK, which was created to kill Republicans. Most black people were Republicans after Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. So they were killing Republicans, which were black or white. Well, Abraham Lincoln they killed. And so he was a devout Luciferian, and he had a vision from a demon in August 15th, 1871. Some people complain that this letter disappeared and it's not really real, and it was real, and I've known about it for more than 30 years. This letter is real. It disappeared. It's kind of like the Georgia Guidestones. Like in 50 years, no one will even know they ever existed, and most people today still don't know that they existed. Okay, so we're just going to go into the 3 world wars. The First World War was, to get rid of the Tsars in Russia, which they did because they had the Eastern Rite Church in Russia, and they destroyed all the churches. It's a funny thing that Putin built back all the churches when the Soviet Union fell.
But we all know the story of the czars being killed and they killed also the king was running the king, going to be the king of Austria, I believe, which actually triggered World War I, and England started that war, and they were losing it, and they were approached by the Rothschilds, and they said that we'll help you win World War I. They were ready to surrender. They only had about a month's worth of food left, the royal family there, and they said, you know, we can help you win this war. We can get America to join the war. All we want in return is Palestine, because all of this interconnects. So that was Balfour wrote this agreement, and that was in, I think, in 1917 or whatever, 16. The Lusitania somehow got sunk. America joined the war, and they destroyed Germany. They cut off the money through London, through the bankers, through the Rothschilds, and they devastated Germany, and they put the people into total chaos, which has to do with World War II, with the Germans not liking the Jews. So it's because they felt betrayed by the Jews. It really wasn't the Jews. It was the Zionism, which is a political movement, and the Albert Pike plan through the demonics. Okay, so then we're just going to go into, and we kind of know the outcome. In 1945, World War II ended. You know, communism was spread into China after that, and into Russia. We had the Soviet Union, and so that was the outcome of World War II. You know, there's some like nonsense in here. The Third World War, which is what I wanted to just read to you real quick. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the angantur, I don't know that word, of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and the political Zionism, the state of Israel, multiply and destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, and spiritual and economic social cataclysm, which in all its horror and clearly show that the nations, to the nations, the effect of absolute atheism, the origin and savagery of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionary will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic demon spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in public view. This manifestation will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So they're going to get the Christians and the atheists and the Islamics and the Jews and all to kill each other off, fighting over whatever and being controlled by the Zionists and the world cabal, Illuminati, and that's basically it. You know, Albert Pike was a devout Luciferian and Freemason. Freemasonry is Luciferian, and just real simple. Their altar is they call it the Creator, being of light, and being of light translated into Latin is Lucifer. That's who they worship. There is no question about it. And any Freemason who's they don't get the esoteric meanings until they move up. And Albert Pike is required reading for Freemasonry. Okay, so he teaches them about Luciferian and how to conjure spirits and stuff like that. Okay, the next thing, I'm going to try and move quickly. I'm going to share this tab. This is the history of Zionism. As an organization, Zionism is a movement. Zionism generally considered to be founded by Theodore here at 1897. However, this had begun much earlier with its intertwine of Jewish history. And why my phone is going nuts, I have no clue. Intertwined with the Jewish history and Judaism. That's not really true. The organization of all Zoin lovers of Zion, held as the forerunners of modern Zionist ideas, were responsible for the creation of 20 Jewish Palestine towns in Palestine between 1870 and 1871. This phone is driving me nuts. So I'm just going to shut this off so you don't hear beeps, hopefully. Okay, responsible for 20 towns in Palestine between 1870 and 1897. So see how far back this goes. At the core of Zionist ideology was the traditional aspiration for a Jewish national home through the reestablishment of Jewish sovereignty in Palestine to facilitate a Jewish diaspora and sought an independent Jewish state. Okay, so in 1896, and I mean, they created the state of Israel in 1948. Okay, so Zionism is a political movement connected to the Illuminati and the Cabal, we call them, whatever you want to call them, and Freemasonry. Okay, it's dead bang. It's there through Albert Pike, 3 world wars. We're getting the 3rd World War, and you saw, I read it. It's going exactly how Albert Pike planned it. Okay, we're going to go to the next thing. Okay, I'm going to share this. Britain from 1914 to 1956, the axis of Britain's Middle Eastern empire stretched from the Suez Canal to the Persian Gulf at its height between the 2 world wars. Britain's supremacy was unchallenged either by other powers or indigenous forces. Yet in 1945, the British dominance quickly crumbled, leaving no relics of any kind, whatever. So we're going to go now to here are some maps. So we're going to share this. This is in 1914. This is the Middle East. It's called Persia. So you see in here, there are some, and here's the Ottoman Empire. You see here, but Britain was in control. Here's Palestine here, but there were no countries. There were no countries. There was just like different traditions. They all spoke Arabic. These are the people. This is the map today of Persia and of the Ottoman Empire. So you see over here, Israel and Palestine. So all of this was created, broken up by England, and all these countries were created. Okay, so that was never there. This was just Persia, and this was, they just made all these countries. Okay, and so here you have Palestine, Israel. So now we're going to go real quick to another view. I got to go here because I got to change the view, and we're going to go to the view of share screen window here. Okay, so I want to show the progression of Israel. Okay, so this is in 1914 up to 1946. So there were the Zionists, remember, they started some little communities. These people were living in peace. The Jewish people moved in here. There was always Jewish people in the middle in Israel. They were living in peace in Palestine. And what England named this section of land Palestine, and here was Gaza Strip, right? And this is it. So then in the UN plan, which is not the UN plan, they gave Israel like this little piece of land right up here. Okay. And Israel expanded down. This is not UN chartered. This is like they just did it on their own. And so then we go from 1949 to 1967. Okay, Israel's expanded all the way down here, and this is all that's left of Palestine. And this is all that's left of Palestine. And damn it, I'm just trying to turn my phone off, and it doesn't want to listen to me. Okay, and in Palestine, okay, all of this is taken by force. And see, they moved all the way in, and here, they took Jerusalem.
how they did this was they just came and they just started killing people. They had no plan to bring Jewish people in there and make a Jewish Zionist state. They just dropped off. So I said, okay, this is your section, like over here. And it was right up in here. And so they were in Tel Aviv. Rothschild gave them a lot of money. They had the Balfour Agreement. So in 1917, England was England was losing the war to Germany. England started that war, by the way, World War I. And they were losing the war, and they were going to sign a treaty. And Germany said, just let's put everything back the way it was. But the Rothschilds came there with Balfour, and they met with the English royal family. Said, listen, you could still win this war. They're like, how? We got like 1 month's worth of food left. We can't win. So they said, no, we can get America to join this war. All we want is Palestine in return. So you got the Zionists there, the Albert Pike Plan, the Freemasons, and you got say, hey, we're going to just give us Palestine and we'll help you win this war. And so Lusitania got sunk some magically, kind of like things happen magically in this world. And then Germany was devastated. They were starved to people. The Rothschilds cut off their money. They had no money. So the Germans were in starvation after the end of World War I, which led to the rise of Hitler in World War II, which he was given money. But they were blaming the Jews for turning on them in World War I by cutting off the money. But that was really the Rothschilds and the Zionists. That was London. Okay. And so that created World War II and whatever. So you have that. So then, England split this up, and then they gave this little portion of land. Israel took all this land by force, killing the people, women and children, just going, this is our land now, just killing them and squeezing them down and down and down. So, in 67, there was a 7-day war. So everyone, the Jewish people will have been taught in history that, they were attacked by, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. And they won the war in 7 days. That's a lie. That's not what happened. I was alive then. I was in 6th grade, and I lived in an Arab neighborhood. So what happened was they were expanding and killing all the Palestinians. Jordan sent some troops in to try and protect them. Remember, Palestine, what was called Palestine, and the Arabs living in that area had no army. They had nothing. The British left, and poof, they were left on their own. Put the Jews in there, and the Jews were given an army by the Americans and the British, and money by the Rothschilds, and built big cities, and were able to fertilize the land and get things that before that, the Palestinians, the British were just abusing them. They were starving and stuff. So now Israel has an army and everything. And so in 67, as they're expanding, the Jordan, Egypt, and Lebanon and Syria and whatever said, hey, stop killing all these Palestinians. This is not right, taking over their land. It's not chartered by the UN or anything. They're just doing it. So this is the history, the real history. This is what happened. And so these countries, in a show of solidarity, put their armies on the line, on the borders, and said, listen, stop killing them. We're in solidarity with the Palestinians, the Arabs. Stop killing them, the innocent women and children, and taking their land. What's wrong with you people? And so what Israel did was, because they got an army from the United States, jets and everything, they just went around and they bombed everybody. They started bombing all their armies. And all these countries like, oh, wait, stop. Don't bomb us. We just want you to stop killing the Palestinians. Like, what the hell? So they said, no. So they all surrendered. And Israel took even more land. And so they all surrendered, and that was it, because they were afraid of America. They don't want to get in a war with America and Zionism and the England. That's all. That's it. They took a ball. The Illuminati, the Freemasonry, Albert Pike people, the Luciferians. Okay, so there it is. It's right there. So they all surrendered, and that's what happened. There was no magic from God that they won the war in 7 days. No one attacked Israel. Go look it up in book. I think even Google has it. No one. They felt threatened, or whatever. They didn't want to give up the land that they were stealing and killing the people. So listen, the Israelis are following the Zionists. Zionist is not a religion. It's not Judaism. Judaism has a lot of beauty in it, and Jewish people are very kind people and loving people. But they are being led by the Zionists to do this murder, to break God's commandments, and to take land that's not theirs. It's in the Bible. Chosen people does not mean you're superior. First of all, That doesn't mean you're superior people. It means God chose you to put you in this land. That doesn't mean other people couldn't live there. He didn't say, don't let anyone else live there and kill them all. That's not in Torah. You're reading too much Talmud, and you're not looking at the new religion that the Khazarians invented in the, I think it was the 1300s or whenever it was. No, you're an original. If you want to call yourself Jewish and look at Torah, Torah says God threw you out of Israel because you were disobedient. And when the Messiah comes, your Messiah, not the Christian Messiah, when your Messiah comes, that he'll bring you back to the promised land. He didn't say he's going to bring you back there and kill everybody. You know, that's not what he said. Kill everybody and go back there. Your Messiah, unless your Messiah is Rothschild in England, and the UN people, and those are your Messiah. That's your Messiah? I don't know. I don't see your Messiah there. Your Messiah didn't bring you there. You know, and I had this discussion with some Jewish Orthodox people, and they said, well, you know, they agree with me because if you look it up, I'm telling the truth. They got kind of mad about the 7-Day War and all of that. But listen, that's the truth, because they looked it up and they found out I was telling the truth. So really, you know, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Really, Israel needs to stop. And so, and the problem with Gaza is something we'll discuss in a minute. So they're following the wrong thing, just like the Christians are being misled by the Protestantism into all these false religions, you know, and gay marriages and all this other crap, and like transgenderism and sexualizing children and pedophilia and all this other stuff. God set up the church a certain way. So if you look at the church, okay, so London is the money financial system of the world. So the root of all evil is money. We know that. So the money is from London, from England, from the King of England. The root of all evil, the root, that's its foundation of evil, is in London. The foundation of Christianity is in Jesus Christ. He's the root of the faith. So if you can't get that connection, I can't help you. Okay? The English family is nothing but murderers. Their royal family and pedophilias and everything else. And there's a lot of stories going around, even about this wonderful Queen of England, who all these children disappeared when they went on a picnic with her out in Canada. So the countries that England controls, we know England, we know that they're influencing Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, and so many other countries, right? And so here we have all the way to today. Here's where the Palestinians are left, in the Gaza Strip and over here, right? And here, and a little bit around Jerusalem. They kicked them out everywhere, you know. So there was no magic. God did not help them win the 7-Day War. They attacked people and were murdering them for no reason. And that's why they won the 7-Day War, because people didn't want to fight because they were afraid of America and England. That's really the bottom line of that. So now we come to today, all of this by force, and here's Gaza in here. So if I had a dog, a group of dogs, a bunch of dogs, and I took them and I beat them every day, and I made them drink salt water and just kept pushing them around and not letting them sleep in the dog house, and just pushing them, beating them, hitting them with sticks, shooting them. The other dogs, their puppies, killing them. Eventually, you know, then I have another litter of puppies, and those puppies are brought up that same way. And then you have a third generation of puppies brought up that way, beating them and pushing them into corners and not letting them get medical, no food, no water. It's like everything is like a problem. You're going to have a vicious fucking dog. Sorry for the F word. You're going to have a very vicious dogs, a lot of vicious dogs, because you're abusing them. Hence, this is the problem here. This is why no one wants the people from Gaza. They are so abused and so mistreated. They have so much anger in them from what's been done to them over the last 3 generations that I don't know how to fix them. And God did not give me the answer for this, because it seems it's going to escalate and it's going to go the way it's going to go. Otherwise, God would have told me. I'm telling everyone to pray. Pray, pray, pray. Turn back to God. So we're in like the days of Jonah. Okay, so Jonah was a Jewish guy who you want to give God's message. He went into Nivea, or Nivea, however you want to say it, and he told them,
God's going to destroy country, city in 40 days. 200,000 people or something live there. So Jonah goes in there, and he, after the belly of the whale story and all, he's like, "Oh, yeah, God, I'll go in there and I'll do it." He goes in there and he's preaching. And the king calls him, and everybody in Nineveh calls him up and listens to him. And everybody in Nineveh starts to fast, repent, and start to follow God's commandments. They become better people, and God spares them. Okay, we're in the same position today. Even when Jonah came out, oh, he's a false prophet. You know, a prophet is visions are false. God didn't destroy it. Whatever. It only lasted 100 years, then God destroyed it because of people that don't believe. I said, oh, that never happened. You know, God didn't come destroy anything, right? So we have the same problem today. So people are not listening to God. They're not following the commandments. So if you want, we can suffer the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah, where Lot couldn't find 10 good people in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they had all these perverts in there, and whatever, and so God destroyed it with fire. And then you have on the other side, you have Nineveh, who listened to him, and they changed their ways, repented, and changed and turned to God. If we do not turn back to God, if we do not follow the 2 commandments Jesus gave us for the Christians, one is to love God, the Father Almighty, above all any other God. Don't worship any gods, even above your family. And the second commandment Jesus gave us, commandment, is to love your neighbor as I have loved you, as Jesus has loved us. So it's not the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or would do what you like. Like if you like to get hit in the head with a board, does that mean you go around and hit other people in the head with a board? No, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, love others as I have loved you, as Jesus loved. Jesus' love was perfect. He gave his life for his human life for us to show us how much he loved us. He healed us. He healed the sick. He helped he fed the poor. He did all good things. He's showing you this is the way people are supposed to live. Not, hey, I got the bigger car, or this guy here, or I don't like this or that. People lived in tribes. And so when they're in the tribes, originally humans, like tribe, the tribe would all work with each other. The men would go out. Well, the American Indians are a great example for somebody to visualize. The men would go out and hunt, bring back the food, and everybody eat it. The women would do the thing, and the women, and everybody would take care of everybody. If they were sick, they had medicine men. They all took care of it. Everything was fine. That's how people are supposed to live. Expand out into the world today. We could live that way. We could have free energy. We don't need it. The oils are what promoted all of these wars, and we don't need all of that. So people need to turn back to God. You love your neighbor as Jesus has loved you. If you see a homeless person, give them something. What do you say? Oh, they're going to spend the money on drugs. So what? If it gives them comfort, it's not up to you to decide. This government is bringing the drugs into this country with the open borders and whatever. They've been bringing it since the 60s. We didn't have drug problems before the 1960s. People forget. And the gasoline thing, okay, I saw the oil, they made oil cars, okay, gasoline cars. So in 1974, gasoline was, 25 cents a gallon. Then they had the gas shortage. It went to like $1.50, then went back down to $1 or so and stayed around there. Then first they made OPEC. They organized all of these Arabic countries that the English created. The Antichrist English there, that they created that. And so then they created OPEC. So then they put the control on oil and they made the oil shortage. Then Nixon made to make a deal, said, hey, everybody, we need to fund these wars. We need to create something called radical Islam. So what they did was they put the OPEC put an oil shortage on. They got all this extra money, and they started creating radical Islam. They're funding them, giving crazy people, radicals, money, and promoting that. That would be, through the CIA, through the Freemasonry, and through the governments of the United States and England and the Western nations, following the Albert Pike story, right along, and Zionists. And so then again, we're in the petrodollar, and they're funding the crap out of these wars. And then in 1978, they do another gas shortage. They bring it up to $2 a gallon from 25 cents in like 7 years. And all that's extra profit. And that profit money went to the Arabs
to create that. So then on Iran, they got the 1979, the creation of real radical Islam, the creation of Iran as a religious Islamic fundamentalist state, and they have some hostages, and then they threw the Shah out of there, and they created the Iran, the radical Islam, just formed by money and control of money, just like the Jews are controlled by the Zionists through money. They're not paying attention to Torah. They need to pay attention to God's word, be kind and peaceful and loving and shepherds of the world. Okay, and that includes other people too. And so same thing with Christianity, when they did the schisms, and everyone fell to the easy way. The easy path is Protestantism. Protestantism is, I believe in Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and I'm saved. And you can't argue that point with them at all. Oh, nope, not at all. That's the easy path. That's the wide road. You can do whatever you want. God forgive me, he died for my sins. It's a lot more complicated than that. So, at any rate, I think I'm pretty much about done. I mean, I skip around a little bit, but the message God wanted me to tell you is you have to turn back to God and to pray. And fast. You have to change the way you are. You have to stop being materialistic, and you really do have to stand up to the evil in this world. And right now, it's inevitable. World War III. And I do have a video up on that on Rumble here. It's called a prophecy video, and it's going to be on Rumble and on YouTube. So God bless everyone. May God have mercy on our souls. I'm going to end with the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. God bless everyone, and may the peace of Jesus stay with you and with your families and protect you. Please turn back to God. Don't be like the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Be like the people of Nineveh. Don't be Jonahs. Preach God's message for everyone. And I don't think Protestants are not holy, by the way. Just want to add that in there. I've met a lot of very holy Protestant people. They're truly searching God. Same thing with Jewish people. I have Jewish people that I would put my life on the line for. I would put my life in jeopardy to save them, to help them. I have many, many, many Jewish friends. I'm not going to go into a whole story of that I decided before. I'm leaving that out of this. This is my second recording, and we're at 40 minutes. I would hope everyone listens to this whole thing. So God bless everyone. And may the peace of Jesus be with you and protect you. Okay, that's about it for me. I threw a bunch of videos together. I did have a problem in the middle of the stream where it said it dropped, but I couldn't see it. And then someone took over my computer and my cursor was running all over the place. But I guess they dropped out of there or whatever. I don't know what happened. Or maybe they just erased everything. I don't know. So I'm going to end the stream here. And God bless again, everyone. Take care of yourselves.